Hey, welcome to the Love Fashionably podcast. I'm so excited that you joined me again on this night, or if this is your first time, thanks for popping in and checking it out. As always, we start by saying a big thank you to BGTV Studios for being the host of this podcast. BGTV Studios is a podcast network where there are lots of podcasts happening all throughout the week where you can, if you want more information, go find BGTV Studios on social media, on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of them. And like, save, share, like the graphic said, comment, all the things so that it will start to come up because as you know, the social media has this funny algorithm that none of us can quite figure it out, even bloggers like me. So just all I know is that if you like something, they will keep showing it because it's the same thing, like when you are talking about something and then automatically an ad pops up. It's kind of the same thing like that. So be sure to like it. You're probably on one of those, either Facebook or YouTube already if you have found this podcast. So hop on over to the other one and be sure to check out everything that's going on there as well. But thanks for joining me again this week. I hope that you all are having a great start to your week. It is Monday. Mondays are always a bit thrown up in the air, but I'm sure as many of you are probably on countdown to Thanksgiving break. And then we know Christmas is following right behind that. It's already Christmas at my house. It has been for a couple weeks now. So I am full out in the Christmas spirit. So hope you are too. Otherwise, Grinch. We'll work on you. But last week we talked a little bit about kind of honoring authorities that are in our life or different people that are in our life. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more on honor. It's been many years ago. I was in a small group with some girls, and we went through this book. Really, I think we just did the video series on it called Honor's Reward by John Bevere. And it really kind of changed my thought process moving forward into a lot of different things going on in my life and how I approach different situations and handled situations, because you handle them a lot differently based on, your heart posture. And so I kind of wanted to talk about, because honor can be one of those things where it's kind of like a weird concept. Like you hear it, somebody might say, I want to get up and I want to honor you. And you're like, okay, but I don't really know what it means. You're just kind of saying a speech and some nice things about them. But what does that really look like? Because to me, I really feel like honor is not necessarily words that we say, but more actions that we do. Kind of like faith. We know faith without works is dead. Same with love. You show love by your actions that you put behind your feeling. And so honor is kind of in that whole same realm, that concept of that you will honor those by your actions. So what really is honor? And these were just some of my notes that I went back and looked at from years ago when going through Honor's Reward and with John Bevere. So he says that honor is, let me find it. That was not the right part. Yes. Okay. It was down at the bottom. Why did I have it at the bottom? I was supposed to I have it flip-flopped in my notes there. So thank you, B-Rad. Mr. Producer and CEO is in the house for us tonight. Chirping in. He's actually the one that gave us the videos for that small group. So kind of small world. He didn't. But he talks about honor comes from a valuing, its appreciation, esteem, or respect. So the opposite of that would be dishonor, which means to treat as ordinary or common. And so kind of thinking about this, we want to think about, of course, you can, like I said, you can take this into all different realms and aspects of your life, but I'm going to kind of think about it as in relationship to honoring God, the people that God places in our lives, and then how that affects us and can affect God with our relationship with God. And so he says that honor is a key essential for receiving rewards from God, and even kind of mentioned that it can be a currency of heaven. Now, while we don't honor someone just to get something from God, because we don't want to be spoiled brats down here, like, oh, I'm going to do like my best job at honoring people because I want all these rewards and blessings because now you owe it to me. It's not really don't think that's really the theme behind and the heart behind of what he's saying. He's just trying to open our eyes to kind of see and kind of unveil another layer, I feel like, to God. We experience God by how we know him, and kind of, I think a lot of times we don't really think that we deserve some things, or maybe there's some things that God wants to give us, but it takes a little bit of action on our part, and that's where this concept comes into place. So there are a few verses. 1 Timothy 4:8, it says, physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. So benefits in this life. And then in Proverbs 11:31, if the righteous are rewarded here on earth, what will happen to wicked sinners? So again, just kind of that that God wants to reward us on this earth. That yes, there are great rewards that he has in store for us in heaven, but he also blesses his children here on earth. And the biggest thing I felt like I really took away from this was that there can be, when you honor, depending on your heart posture, there's really 3 types of outcomes. You either have no reward, you can have a full reward, or a partial reward. And that was what really stuck with me when we went through it, because I never wanted to miss the moment to where God wants to give me something, but I stop it, or he wants to give me more of something, but my heart posture wasn't right, so I didn't get everything that he had for me. And just to kind of show a little bit, again, before I kind of talk about a few other examples tonight that I wanted to share, but in Mark chapter 6, he's in verses 3-6, it says, then they scoffed, he's just a carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon. So that right there lets us know that they are treating Jesus as common and ordinaries, which we know is the definition of dishonor. And it says, and his sisters live right here among us. They were deeply offended and refused to believe in him. Then Jesus told them, a prophet is honored everywhere except in his own hometown and among his relatives and his own family. And because of their unbelief, he couldn't do any miracles among them, except to place his hands on a few sick people and heal them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. Then he went from village to village teaching the people. So just to kind of show you that even Jesus on earth, in the flesh, people missed it. They missed their moment. They did not honor him. They dishonored him, and they did not receive the reward that he had for them. He said there was only a few, so maybe that town received maybe a partial reward. When I think of honor, there's several stories that come to mind for me, and they're all my favorite stories, my favorite characters, if you will, in the Bible. Joshua. I love the story of Joshua and how he had great faith. But I always picture Joshua. When I think of Joshua, the first thing I think of is I picture him at the tent of Moses. When Moses would go in and meet with God, Joseph stayed at the kind of the opening of the tent because he couldn't go in, but he wanted to be as close as he could be. And so he honored God. He honored Moses in the season of the wilderness. And then when it was time for the next season, which we know they entered the promised land, God honored him, and he got to lead the people into the promised land. Did a lot, fought a lot. God really trusted him. The next story I think of is with Ruth, the story of Ruth. She, her mother-in-law, her kind of really brief, her father-in-law and her husband and then her brother-in-law all died. And so she's traveling to go with her mother-in-law back to another village, back to where Naomi was from, because it was, they didn't have anything left where they were. And along the way, Naomi becomes very bitter, and she says, call me Mara, which I love that. That's how I picture her doing it. Just call me Mara, because Mara means bitter. And so she's obviously being super dramatic because God obviously has his favor on her life as we see as her story plays out. There's a kinsman redeemer. But in that moment, Ruth had the other daughter-in-law left. But Ruth chose to stay. Where you go, I'll go. Where your people will be my people. Your God is my God. And she chose to follow along with her. And because of that, I feel like that honor in that moment put Ruth in the place of not only getting a kinsman redeemer, she got a new husband, she got a baby, and she was placed in the lineage of Jesus. I would say that Ruth got a full reward. Another story is the story of Esther. So the story of Esther, if you don't know, it's not like, God's not mentioned throughout the entire story of Esther. And we know that she was a young Jewish woman. She's put into the king's palace to kind of, more than likely, because there were so many, be a concubine. And that's just not, I'm sure that it's not at all what she thought her life would be. But when she's in this moment, the season of where she doesn't want to be, not doing something that really she probably wants to do, she honors the eunuch or the person that's in charge of her for this season to kind of help get her ready for her night with the king. She honors him. She even honors the king she's never met, the one that she probably doesn't even really want to be around. And she honors him, and he ends it up. She has favor. Not only does she become queen, she saves the entire Jewish nation because of the favor and the honor that she had in one season. She was rewarded fully, not only been in her life, but in the lives of all of those around her. And the last story I want to share is not one that you find in the Bible, although it's my favorite, and I feel like it's a very good representation of our relationship with God. It's the story of Cinderella. I've told this on the podcast. You can go back and watch it. Go to the BGTV YouTube channel, and search for the Love Fashionably page. It's kind of back towards the beginning, but I love the story of Cinderella, always have. And the newer, I was going to say model, version of the movie, it has a really pretty picture, and I feel like it's a really good representation. But she's like this poor girl, but she's just doing mundane jobs. She's just doing something. She's stuck in a situation, again, she doesn't want to be. She's around people because her, mother and father have died. So she's around people that are treating her poorly. She is the owner of the house that she's in, but the stepmother has taken over. And instead of bucking the system and doing all these things, she honors her. Honors her stepmother. She does what she's told, and her stepsisters, and she's providing for them, she's cleaning up after them, she's doing everything that she's supposed to do that they ask her of, and she receives, I think, in the story, a full reward. And my favorite part is at the end when the prince is like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I am Cinderella," because she's accepted her identity, because they said that she was Cinderella because she slept by the fire and had the cinders on her face. So it was a name used to cause hurt and to cause pain, but she had accepted it as who she was. And she not only receives the king, but she received the entire kingdom, because when you get the king, you get the kingdom. And so I love that story of Cinderella. And then one of my favorite parts is as she's walking out holding the king's hand, she turns around and looks, and the stepmother's coming down the stairwell, and she doesn't say a word, but Cinderella looks at her and she says, "I forgive you." And she turns around and walks out and leaves her. So I think she got her full reward. And so I just wanted to share a few of those stories. I felt like they're my favorites. They're really easy, but the stories of honor are written throughout all of our lives. And so by our actions and the way that we treat people, and more of a heart posture. So I hope that this encourages you to kind of think about it a little more. I did want to give a little shout out. This is not at all, we're not getting paid for this over here, but we love John Bevere over here, and he does have an app called Messenger X that is free on the App Store that you can go and download, and you can search Honors Reward. I went back and even did a few refreshers. He has some of the videos. He has I think the whole book is on there that you can watch. It's all free. So if you are wanting to know anything more about honor and look more into Honors Reward, please go check that out. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again here next Monday night.